In today's video, I'm going to talk about 5 ways you can support your deaf or hard of hearing family member in an athletic event. My name is Emily. I'm hard of hearing myself. I have a moderate to severe hearing loss that's in both ears, and so I wanted to make this video because it was actually inspired by cheering for one of my hard of hearing loved ones. I hope you stick around to the end of this video. I'm going to share 2 resources that could be helpful if you offer them to your athlete before the race. My sister is clinically deaf. She has a cochlear implant in one ear and a hearing aid in the other, which means she's bimodal. This last weekend, she participated in a triathlon. The distance of her triathlon was a little bit less than a half Ironman. This means she swam 1.2 miles, biked 54 miles, and ran 13.1 miles, all in one race. This was a massive ordeal and I loved cheering her on. I also remembered that, wow, cheering someone on that's hard of hearing or deaf is different than cheering on someone who is hearing. So let's talk about these 5 ways you can support a deaf or hard of hearing athlete. Item number 1 is to review race logistics. And what I mean by this is becoming familiar with the race itself. This includes looking at the race maps, visiting the site ahead of time to become familiar with it, and where you are going to position yourself to cheer for your hard of hearing or deaf loved one. My sister and I did this by pulling up the race maps ahead of time. We were able to look at the general kind of flow of the race and where she would be competing. We then visited the race site the day before and kind of got an idea of the streets, how big they were, whether they were smaller or bigger than we thought they were going to be, where the aid stations were going to be, where the transition zone was because this was for a triathlon, etc. This can be really helpful for your athlete so that when they arrive to the race venue the day of the race, they aren't unfamiliar with the area. They understand where they're going to be going from start to finish. They will also know where and when they can expect to see you cheering them on. Item number 2 for cheering for your athlete is to review their preferences. For example, talk about a couple different scenarios. How will I know if you're doing well? How will I know if you're doing badly? For my sister and I, this looked like just a lot of gestures and kind of signs going back and forth. Good, bad, oh, tired. I definitely got some indications after the swim that she was dead. She came climbing out of the water and was like, oh, and I could tell, wow. But it was a good thing because I was able to maintain contact with her and encourage her to keep going. It's important to talk to your athlete ahead of time to understand their preferences. That way you can adjust your communication and encouragement accordingly. When you're discussing your athlete's preferences, this is a great time to offer resources that may be helpful to them. I'm going to talk about these more at the end of the video. Item number 3 is you can establish a pattern of pre-race communication. When you're visiting the venue the day before, maybe establish where you can be to help your athlete before the race starts. What I mean by this is we came into the venue, my sister was able to set up her transition area with her bike and her running gear ready to go after she came out from the swim. Now, when we got down to the swim for the start line, the announcer was giving some verbal announcements. She could not hear these announcements because her cochlear implant was off and her hearing aid was out. So I listened to the announcements. I was able to stand right next to her and tell her what he had said. Through various races I have participated in, I have noticed that a lot of pre-race announcements just emphasize the course. Now, if you are unable to get down to your athlete to relay pre-race information or announcements to them, encourage them beforehand to talk to a racer next to them. They can simply say, I didn't hear the announcer, what was said. Hopefully they have residual or natural hearing available that allows the person to tell them what was said. If not, and your athlete definitely has profound deafness, see if you can get permissions beforehand to be down at the start line to relay this information to your athlete, whether via sign language or a poster or something like that. Resources you can use if you're unable to get down behind the start line with your athlete include a whiteboard and posters so that when they run by you at the beginning of the race, they can see your poster and know any important information or last minute updates that were announced that they may have missed due to not having hearing devices on if their race requires it. Item number 4 for supporting your athlete is supporting with visual encouragement. Supporting with visual cues includes wearing bright clothing. I wore the shirt because, boy, it is bright, and my sister would be able to see me cheering for her in this. Now, is this comfy? No, but is it visible? Yes. Thankfully, I had another bright shirt that I wore for her, and I also brought a bright pink jacket in case it was cold. So I had a bright pink shirt and a bright pink jacket. So she knew that she would be looking for me to cheer in specific locations wearing bright pink. So that made it easy for her to know when to expect to see me, and it worked. The great news with the bright pink is she could see me from quite far away, so the bright colors also encouraged her longer than I think would have encouraged her if I was wearing darker, harder to see colors. Additional visual cues that you can use to encourage your athlete include posters with encouragement, inside jokes, and other things your athlete might find motivation in. Body gestures are also incredibly helpful. Ways that you can use body gestures to support your athlete include a thumbs up, waving hands. This is clapping in ASL or American Sign Language, because obviously that's useless, but this indicates I'm cheering for you, you got this. When I was growing up, my dad would actually attend my track meets, and he would stand right behind the finish line. So the track, on the 100-meter stretch would have a fence usually right here, and he would stand right behind that fence. So every time I finished or came around on a lap, I could see him standing there. He'd be the same place every time or very close to it. And he would stand there and he would do his waving hands, and he would say, "Go, Emily, go." Usually I couldn't hear him cheering for me, but I could see him. It meant a lot to know that he was cheering for me. And last but not least, one of the best ways to support your athlete is to celebrate. When your athlete has done this race or this competition or whatever it may be, they are exhausted afterwards. They have put their best out there, and wow, they want to know that you think they've done a good job. So get away from the noise, listen to what they have to say, ask them questions, and go celebrate at a restaurant, whether it's getting a fuel up treat or going out to eat. Ensure that this environment is quiet and gets them away from all that crazy noise. For my sister and I, that quiet environment looked like Sonic in the car. Her preferred post-triathlon treat was a chocolate Oreo milkshake and mozzarella breadsticks with marinara sauce. Now, that's what we ate at first, and then later that night, we celebrated with some takeout food. It was a fun way to celebrate her hard work and incredible accomplishment of doing that massive triathlon. I have done a half marathon, and I cannot fathom swimming 1.2 miles and biking 54 before doing a half marathon. That's just mind-blowing to me. Have you done a race? If so, I would love to hear about what race you did in the comments below. Have you supported someone who's done a race? If so, I would love to hear in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching this video and sticking around to the end. So, as I said, I would mention, I talked about talking to your athlete about their preferences. This might be a good time to offer them resources that could be beneficial during their race. Now, I didn't offer these resources to my sister, aside from power-up drinks and gels and things like that, but I realized, these resources would have been so good to offer her. These resources include course map printouts and ear gear. So course map printouts, I wish I would have printed out a little laminated, just tiny little map for her that if she wanted to put it on her bike or slip it in an armband or something like that, she could have it. She could have even taped it to the back of her number, but she actually got lost during the run. And I was so sad. Like, I knew when she had started the run, I was like, oh my, she's either walking or she got lost, because the time was far greater than it should have been. Sure enough, I saw her coming around the corner and she was walking, and she got some water, came up to me and said, I went the wrong way. There was a guy standing right where we were supposed to turn, and I was following another athlete. She went the wrong way. And finally, I realized there's no way this is right. She turned around and came back. But the reality is, if she would have had a visual little laminated map, but she would have visibly had a map and been able to hopefully see that she had gone too far when she hit some major landmarks that indicated that she realized, wow, I've gone too far. One of the biggest landmarks she was passing that she realized was wrong was an overpass. So luckily she turned around relatively quickly, but even just a quarter mile, half a mile in a race this long is a lot of energy to expend wasting off course. So I wish I would have given her mini course laminated maps. And then the second thing is ear gear. Ear gear offers protective sleeves for an athlete's hearing devices to protect against dirt, sweat, and dust. And where my sister was sweating hours on end on this massive race, ear gear could have been very beneficial to her. So I wish I would have thought of that. I have ear gear. It would have probably have fit her hearing aid, and I wish I would have thought about that. But since we left a day before the race to travel to get there, I just didn't think ahead about that. And I really wish I would have, because if we would have been home, I could have pulled it out and given it to her. So there you have it. If you have any questions about this video, please let me know in the comments below. Again, thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to making more great hearing loss related content for you. I hope your athlete does great in their next race. Thanks for supporting them. Stay strong, stay amazing, and have a great day.